Russia's all-out war has changed life in every Ukrainian city and village. Closer to the front line, entire towns have been razed to the ground, with thousands killed and injured, and millions forced to relocate. Further away from hostilities, Russia's attacks have terrorized cities all across the country. Thousands of homes and infrastructure sites have already been ruined by these relentless attacks. More than 1.5 years into the full-scale invasion, Ukrainians have adapted to the new reality of curfew restrictions, howling air raid sirens, and bomb shelters. But even in this darkest of times, they have also learned to continue living their lives with the glimpses of joy. Today I'll show you what it's like living in Kyiv during war. Just like in any other city across the globe, a day in wartime Kyiv starts with coffee. How strong your coffee is often depends on how many air raid alerts and explosions interrupted your sleep during the night. Luckily, this night was quiet, so I got myself a creamy cappuccino. At first glance, it may look like the war has not affected cafes and restaurants in Kyiv, but in reality, it has brought many changes. Many places in Kyiv prepared food for Ukrainian soldiers and internally displaced people in the first month of the full-scale invasion. Many restaurant workers and owners have also stepped in to defend their country by joining the army. Numerous venues also raise money to support the military. This cafe in the city center sells war-themed sweets and donates profit to support the military.
Explosives is our top-selling dessert. We donate 50 hryvnia from the sales of each dessert to the Serhii Pratula Foundation. We have already repaired 2 armored personnel carriers with the raised funds. Now we are raising money for the third one. One of them was called Cardamom Bun, approaching our victory with sweets. These sweets are made together with the United 24 fundraising platform, featuring 3 symbols: F-16 plane, the uniqueness of our language, the letter Y, and cotton, also a symbol of this time.
The word cotton or bavovna in Ukrainian refers to Ukraine's attacks on Russia's military infrastructure. And when it comes to reporting about these attacks, Russian propaganda media often uses the word bang instead of explosion to presumably play them down and also not to cause panic among Russians. The word bang is spelled in Russian the same way as cotton.
As the times are, so are the desserts.
Last year, Kyiv looked much emptier than it is now. There were fewer cars and people on the streets, but there were numerous military checkpoints all over the city. This spring and summer, the capital began to resemble what it had looked like before the full-scale invasion. Since many residents have returned, so have traffic jams. The roads are especially busy during the regular rush hour in the morning and evening on weekdays. Even though it's getting colder now as the winter approaches, many people can still be seen outdoors, strolling the streets, walking their dogs, reading, and even playing chess.
І ми теж попадемо туди.
Kyiv Independent. Да.
Is it an English language media outlet?
Гарно всі усвідомлять по всьому світу.
Let all foreigners around the world know that Putin is the main problem and the main threat to the whole world and peace, and we have to win by any means, and let them give us weapons. The more, the better.
А хай вони нам дають зброї. Чим більше, тим краще.
But all of that can only be done until midnight, when the curfew starts. According to the current restrictions in Kyiv, all residents must remain inside from 12 a.m. until 5 a.m. Although there is a certain frustration among locals about the restriction, the law enforcement insists that the curfew is necessary to maintain discipline and prevent crime during the war. While many popular venues often crowded during the day, all of them will be empty by around 10 p.m., which is the latest closing hour because of the curfew. Well, almost all of them will be empty. Ukrainian journalists have exposed several restaurants and clubs that stayed open at night in violation of curfew. But these establishments tend to start following rules under public scrutiny and after paying fines. Also, most of the venues now own power generators, which was the only way for them to continue operating last fall and winter, as Russia continuously targeted Ukraine's energy infrastructure with missiles and drones, causing power outages and blackouts. Walking around Kyiv, one can even spot some venues that have already set up their power generators outside, preparing for new possible blackouts.
We were only able to work when there was power. At the beginning of the power outages, we closed and then we bought gas burners to cook main courses or soup so that there was at least something. At first, we hoped that things would improve and that the situation would end sooner or later, but even after we bought the generator, it took a long time to arrive. Last year, the main problem was that we didn't know whether we would be able to work the next day or the next 3 days, and the fact that we now have a generator gives us at least some confidence and reduces our fear and anxiety.
President Volodymyr Zelensky has recently said that Russia will try to destroy Ukraine's energy infrastructure with even more attacks this winter. On September 21st, Russia has launched the first mass strike on Ukraine's energy infrastructure since spring. Entertainment in the capital is not limited to cafes and restaurants these days. Cinemas, art galleries, theaters and opera houses are all at your service here. However, Russia could spoil all the fun any moment, as many cultural venues as well as stores and shopping malls close during the air raid alerts. If there is an air raid siren, you should look for the nearest bomb shelter. If you're not anywhere near the subway, finding a bomb shelter in the capital might not be easy. For that, some people use an online map available on the Kyiv digital app. Now we will try to find a bomb shelter marked on the map. Так, ми взагалі не там.
Треба всередину заходити, потім там далі двері.
Ага. Well, not today. Ні, мені здається, що прям якби я добре не дьорнула, воно не відкриється.
Серйозно, закрили.
А ви тут працюєте чи живете?
Так.
Працюєте? Ого. Клас, дякую. So this is how the typical bomb shelter in Ukraine looks like.
The building is old, the foundation is in disrepair. Therefore, of course, it's safer in the subway. But if we can't make it to the subway quickly, we come down here. How did life change after the war began? For the worse, of course. Life became restless. You have to go downstairs during air raid alerts and look for some kind of bomb shelter.
But subway stations are considered to be the safest option, and the entrance is free during air alerts. You can see people reading books and playing with their children and pets. Many continue working on their laptops and constantly checking their phones for updates. Many of us tirelessly scroll Telegram channels that monitor whether Russian forces launched missiles or drones. How many have already been spotted above Ukraine and in what direction they are heading? What a life, right? Public transport such as buses, trams and trolleybuses are instructed to stop and drop off passengers at the nearest shelter during air raid alerts, while subway trains continue to operate only in underground areas. Taxis and marshrutkas, or local minibuses owned by private companies, continue to carry the passengers amid alerts. Although traveling around the city may seem a bit complicated now, that is nothing compared to what going abroad is like. Since civilian air traffic was halted on the first day of the full-scale invasion, Ukrainians have been forced to choose between traveling by car, train or bus. All of them take at least half a day and may involve standing at long lines at border checkpoints. At first glance, Kyiv seems to be vibrant and thriving, even amid the full-scale war. But the traces of scars Russia has left and continues to do so are everywhere. Destroyed Russian military equipment is exhibited in several spots across the downtown, reminding us of the ongoing heavy fighting to free Ukrainian land. Dozens of small Ukrainian flags cover the lawn at the capital's central Independent Square, each of them honoring a person killed by Russia's war. Soldiers in uniforms can be spotted on the streets daily, as well as hundreds of posters calling to donate for the army. People also noticeably smile less, and they have fewer reasons to laugh, and even the simplest question, "How are you?" can lead to tears. Now we're standing at the ruins of what used to be a residential building in central Kyiv. Last October, Russia launched a drone strike against the capital, hitting this apartment building. It killed 5 people, including a couple that was expecting a child. Even though Kyiv is located hundreds of kilometers away from the front line, the city continues to suffer casualties among locals. In July, Kyiv Mayor Vitaly Klitschko said that 170 civilians have been killed by the Russian attacks on the capital since the beginning of the full-scale war. Among them are 7 children, according to him. It's getting late and I'm rushing to get home before curfew. This is how we spent many of our nights. During nighttime attacks, people either hide in the bathrooms far from the windows like I am now, or go to the nearest bomb shelter, if there is one close. We learned to distinguish the sound of air defense shooting down targets from the sound of missiles and drones hitting something. Hearing the incoming missile is perhaps one of the most terrifying things because at this very moment you think that you might be the next victim. Hopefully the air defense will shoot down all the targets tonight, and I also hope there will be no casualties, and I will wake up tomorrow morning and start my day with a cup of very strong coffee.